Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in a minute here. We just finished our last one, so give people short time period here to jump on, but we'll get started here in a second. All right. Good morning again, everybody. If you were on our last one, Controls 101, welcome back. If you are not, you will be able to access that video on our regular YouTube channel. So if you don't know me and you weren't on the last one, my name is Tom Rinaldi. I'm one of the outside sales and applications guys here at Broudy. Sitting next to me is Matt Whitmer, one of our engineers. He will be manning the chat. So if you have questions or comments or needs or wants, anything like that, please just type them into the chat, and we'll bring them up as we go. This presentation we're going to do now shouldn't be any more than 30 minutes. We're calling it the industry updates. We're going to look at trending topics and products and stuff like that from a high level, trying to kind of breeze through it. Typically, I do this on a regular basis for people like end users, contractors, consulting engineers, just to keep everybody up to date with what's going on. We live in a technology world, so things are constantly changing. Also, when I do this, normally it's a conversation piece. In this role here, it's going to be a little tough. So I will be mostly just going over information that you see on the slide. But again, if you have questions or comments, please just chuck them in the chat. I'm going to share my screen, kick this thing off. All right, so we can all see my screen here now. Again, we're calling this Building Technology Industry Update. Again, if you weren't on the first one, quick background on us. We are Broudy Precision. We are headquartered on the East Coast, or headquartered in Philadelphia. We service the East Coast. We are a open source building technology distributor. We were established in 1964. We are still privately owned, family operated business here. Still act very much like a small company, even though, again, we're covering the whole East Coast. Our job is to stock and supply all of the material. And then beyond that, we train, support, and certify everything that we sell. And then we do this sort of thing, which is consulting and making markets. So helping out in just about every way we can. We carry 60 plus building automation lines, some of our big ones, most popular being Honeywell, JCI, Tridium / Vicon, Belimo, ACI, Phoenix Contact, Functional Devices. Like I said, many, many more. But those are our big ones. So again, in the lieu of industry update, most of us, I put this up here, are familiar with us residing in that Division 23 spec, which is typically HVAC. So you're also going to see building automation within there. I threw this in here to show that we are now also being given Division 25, which is integrated automation. If you look down at the bottom there, the newest three-letter acronym for us is a Master Systems Integrator. So this is living within that Division 25 and integrating and organizing all of the systems that may be coming up in, say, Division 23 HVAC. So most of us on here, I'm sure, know all these acronyms, know the divisions of labor, but I'd like to point out that there is now sort of a second one where we live in our world, that Division 25, called MSI, official name, Integrated Automation. To get us started on a base level, in case we're not all operating on the same wavelength at the moment, I'm going to blast through some dictionary items. A protocol, which we're going to talk about a fair amount. A protocol is just a communication language between two controllers. So within the space, you have controllers controlling your boilers and your chillers. They need to be able to talk to each other via the same language. That language is called a protocol. Within that, an open protocol is a protocol standard that multiple brands utilize. Best example of which, probably the most popular, is BACnet. So Honeywell makes a BACnet controller, JCI makes a BACnet controller, just about everybody else does too. A driver is a software package that would get installed on a network device of some sort that allows different protocols to now be spoken. Proprietary is something that only one entity has exclusive rights to. Non-proprietary is something that anyone or any brand has access to. Tridium is one of our brands, obviously, but they're a company. Tridium is the name of the company. They create something called the Niagara software. They also create Jace hardware pieces. They also then OEM that out to a bunch of different brands, some of which we represent. A controller is a logic device utilizing feedback loops and inputs and outputs to make hot or cold air come into my room and make it nice and comfortable. Field device, for the sake of today, we're going to call it anything that IO and the above one is touching. So these can be things like valves, actuators, VFDs, sensors. So how am I getting information back to a controller? Also, how am I making things happen on a piece of mechanical equipment? So in today's world, a building management system, whereas in days past we were called DDC or ATC. That's when we really just started controlling things with electricity as opposed to air, pneumatics. Now in a building management system or building automation system, we're really looking at the entire envelope of the building. So that might mean HVAC like we do every day. That might also mean the lighting systems. That might mean the energy systems, security, card access, all that kind of stuff. But this little graphic here is just to show that within a BMS or a building management system, I'm looking at the entire envelope of the building now, not just the boilers and chillers. Okay, so when we revamped our little presentation here, I decided to break it down with some of the most simple questions that we ask about just about everything. So I'm going to go through where the industry sits now and where it might be heading, and I'm going to do it via answering these couple questions: why, what, and how, who, and when. Okay, so the why. Why, again, do we want to reach that graphic of the entire building envelope? We want to do that simply to aggregate all of the data that's in the building. Now, this isn't just us in the HVAC world. Data is the hottest button probably there is. We know that there's a lot going on within a building, some of which being temperature controls. And we want to have a place, one place, to operate it, to navigate through different systems, to schedule different systems, and make that building act as one. Space comfort, still a leading thing, right? So we want proper temperature, proper humidity, all of that within a space, an office, a surgical center, whatever it may be. The other big hot button right now is energy conservation. We're going to do that through system optimization and efficiencies, things like carbon footprint, going green, building benchmarking. Obviously, with some of the stuff that's happened in the recent past, we need to kind of get the real estate, commercial real estate sector back on foot. Again, we're doing that by controlling these buildings properly. Um, some of the other recent hot things: indoor air quality, making sure that the air in my room is not just temperature controlled, not just humidity controlled, but also controlled for CO2, for VOCs and PPMs and such like that. And then obviously the last piece of the puzzle is we need all of this, everything we're doing within the building to be secured. The more that we get involved with net-based systems, cloud-based systems, whatever it may be, we have to make sure that we are nice and secure. Okay, so the what and the hows we're going to look at trending topics might be controller-wise, technology-wise, software-wise, whatever it may be. And these are listed in no particular order. I got 2 slides to cover this, so no particular order. We are starting to see, and I think you'll see more of. Typically, in a building, we have a controller level, we have a network level. And the controller is just controlling its piece of equipment, and then the network is taking its data in and organizing it. Um, we're seeing those 2 levels being squished. Some companies have been doing this forever. Some are just starting to do it, and some haven't done it yet. But they're putting quote unquote smarter controllers on the edge. So a prime example is the new Honeywell Optimizer Advanced Controller. This is a full-fledged plant and air handler controller with I/O, with HMI, but it also runs full stack Niagara. So now your device that is actually turning things on and off can also be the same device that's making sense of it and organizing it and making graphical depictions. So that architecture within a building where there's typically multiple tiers is starting to shrink down. Cloud-based systems, I would say just about every single one of our brands now has some sort of cloud offering, from all the way down on the basic level of sensor brands, having some sort of reporting via cloud, all the way up to obviously Niagara Cloud and such like that. Currently, I would say it's pretty tough to find a new building going in that's using some sort of proprietary, like we already talked about, protocol. So, a protocol that only one brand uses. We like these open protocols so that we can have multiple brands, multiple different types of controllers out there, and we can still share that data around. The most popular one right now, I would say, is BACnet MSTP. Coming into popularity in some circles would be IP or Ethernet, and then eventually we'll have BACnet SC, which is a secure form of it that is yet to really take hold. Some of the other popular stuff, there has been a race to make functional wireless. So wireless that actually works. We have done a lot of different BAS systems and brands through the years that have brought forward wireless communication options. And there has always been a big, rightfully so, hesitancy to adopt those. So currently, we have 2 that we're very high on for wireless communications: Lumen Radio and LoRaWAN. They both different protocols, but very robust means for wireless communications, more robust than we've had in the past. Moving on, this is just continued slides, the same topic. Network security continues to be one of the most important pieces to a building envelope, and it's only going to increase in how important it is. As we go further down this road, and as that architecture of buildings, like I said, starts to shrink and flatten out, what we do and what our customers do in building, they're going to have to work hand in hand with IT departments within buildings. Whereas if you rewind 5, 10 years ago, both of those departments were at odds. We didn't want to talk to IT. They didn't want to talk to us. As we go further down this road, we're going to have to integrate with them and make peace. So in the network security world, we have things like VPNs, virtual private networks. We represent a brand called TazzyBox, one of the means for making this happen. I would say that's close to the industry standard now for taking data within the building and sending it out via the web for remote connectivity or for reporting, something like that. Most IT departments are going to want to see a VPN for such. The last piece of it, you are seeing things like SAS, which is software as a service. You're seeing things like SMAs, software maintenance agreements. So these are ways that brands can create stuff that is more secure throughout time, as opposed to I sell you something, it goes and gets installed in a building, and then we never talk again. I never adjust to any known software deficiencies or security deficiencies. Um, Analytics and FDD, or fault detection and diagnostics, again, something that has been around for a long, long time, hasn't necessarily hit mainstream quite yet. Um, but as we get to easier to deploy and more robust systems within a building, analytics and FDD start to play a bigger role. So as different brands pop up or existing brands continue to develop their product to work with, say, things like Niagara, um, you'll see analytics and FDD start to become more mainstay. Um, Benchmarking and reporting. If you live in New York City, you know well about this. Philadelphia, Boston, Pittsburgh, cities like that will be following suit soon. The need to benchmark your building every single year, get an Energy Star rating, and then you're either winning or losing with where your Energy Star rating is. If it's below a certain number, sometimes you're getting fined, and those Energy Star ratings are being plastered on the front of buildings. So we need to be able to do that in order to produce how much gas, electric, and water we use. I need to be able to sense that. I need to be able to report that data and make sense of that data. The last one there, or second to last one, we'll begin to see more automation, more integration, so more different building sectors, different building systems coming into one. We'll start to see redundancy. A lot of data centers have this now, where I have a system that's running my data center, but I want an entire full system where if system number one fails, I want to hitch over to system number two and keep on running. We'll continue to see development towards somehow using AI. How that's going to be used, we don't know yet, but we know things like the JACE 9000 made by Tridium has the ability to do so. It has a neural processing unit, not currently used, but it may be sometime here in the future. There is a lot of talk with AI. The last one there is everything within that building going open source, which we're going to cover here in a slide or two. But that is the what and the how. So the actual pieces of hardware, pieces of software, and means for making those work. Okay, so the who. Who is actually doing this work in that Division 23, that Division 25? And what products are they using? What brands are they representing? I would say for sure now the industry standard in this world is something called open source. Open source means that there are multiple certified installing and servicing contractors that represent that brand that you now have in some piece of your building. This is extremely important. Everything within your system, and for a quick example, let's look at just the HVAC control system. The controller level and the networking level both have to be open source. So just because a company uses Tridium on the networking level does not mean they're open source. You also need the controllers underneath of that on your VAVs, on your chillers, on your boilers to be open source as well. Anything that we represent here at Broudy is open source. Honeywell, JCI, all of those. So what this means to an end user is now they have open avenues for contractors to come service, install, do training for them, whatever it may be. The main question that an end user needs to ask to find out if something is open source is who else, so we're talking about that who else can I call besides you to come and work in my building? If the answer is it's just me, it is not an open source system. I don't care if it talks BACnet. I don't care if it uses Tridium. I don't care. All that matters is if you are the only one that can come and work on my building, do training for me, supply me with replacement parts, all of that, then it's not an open source system. Most savvy consulting engineers are now putting open source directly into their specs, and they're listing out brands like Honeywell, like JCI, ones that can be bought and serviced by multiple contractors. The big difference here, so if you compare open source to, say, sole source, if I'm selling an end user something that only I can sell or do, I get to charge you whatever I want. I get to treat you however I want. If I'm selling you a system that anybody else within the certification can do, then I need to win with my talent and my customer service, and I have to have a good price. So the shift of away from branch operations and towards open source, independently owned contractors, whereas 10 years ago it was happening, it has happened now. Um, Most end users are privy to this, and they do not want a sole source organization working in their building, installing systems in their building. Okay, the when. So if you have an aged building, maybe you have a sole sourced building, we are talking things like migration paths. So the first bullet point there, your building is here, the industry is there. How do we get there? And within that question, we do not typically say, well, how we get there is you take everything out and you install new stuff at a very high cost. We look at things like exactly what's in that building, how it's operating right now, and what migration paths are available to get us up to speed or to start us trending in that way. We look at the budget that the company, the building, whatever it may be, has to spend, and we try to tailor a migration path around those topics. Um, when I talk migration paths with end users, I like to say I would like to start with the tiniest project possible. Again, I don't want to say, hey, you got to rip everything out. We now have things like third party drivers, gateway, integration ability, where I might be able to just solve your hot button. And that might be a very tiny thing. And then again, we're going to budget out. Well, we'll take capital money for next year and we're going to put it into this wing of the building or these certain parts, whatever it may be. And we'll eventually, over the course of a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, get this building up to date. Um, so, the other main thing, if you're in one of these cities where you have to start doing metering and benchmarking per government rulings, maybe that's what we need to start on right now. So if your building doesn't actually have the capability to monitor how much electric you're using and report that, we have to start there. So we might be able to start with just something small like a meter and some sort of reportability. All the while within this migration path, as we're bringing them up, maybe to the cloud or a internet-based system with remote connectivity of some sort, we want to again focus on that network security. So as we're bringing this aging system in, maybe it has pneumatics. As we're bringing it up to speed now, we want to make sure that as we put them online, it is a secure way of doing so. Again, we're working with that IT department to make that happen. Also in the when is keeping this going. So say maybe we started this migration path. Now the building's up to date, state of the art, control system wise. I highly recommend that end users and contractors take advantage of PMs. We all know PMs, preventative maintenance contracts, for things like belts and filters, wear items typically. Well, living in the world we currently live in, with technology always changing, with security always becoming more and more important, we should have PM contracts on our building automation systems. So a couple times a year, contractor will come in, they will make sure you have an up-to-date SMA, they will install any revisions needed, any software patches needed for security reasons or bugs, whatever it may be, look at all of your active alerts, refresh any graphics, and export you any trends that you need to send up to, say, the CFO, something like that. So this is a contract that an end user would have with a certified contractor to be able to make sure that their system is humming along safe and secure as they go, so that they don't get into, say, the same position as we were on the last slide. They had just have an out of date system. So keeping them up to date. And that is it. So again, that was, we got 6 minutes to spare. That was a very, very brief overview of where the industry is at right now, where it might be heading, and looking at things like the different brands that are out there in the space, the technologies they're bringing to the space, how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, and why. So I hope that helped. Matt will throw my email into the chat. Um, if you guys have questions or comments, please feel free to email me. If you would like to set up this sort of thing for your company, your team, a customer of yours, end user, consulting engineer, anything, please feel free to reach out. Any of our salespeople here at Broudy can do this sort of thing. We can tailor it to any way you like. So thank you guys for everything. Is there any no questions in the chat? So hopefully that means everybody's not sleeping. But I appreciate you guys joining. Broudy, appreciate you joining. You'll be able to get these recordings and the one from earlier on YouTube later. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.